All right. Robin asks this question, not our Robin, but a different Robin. In heaven, will I be able to read about the undocumented things that Jesus did on the earth? And I'd be interested in that as well. Like, I would love to know, what was the first year like? Did he cry as a baby? Did he scream and cry? Did he get colic? What I would like to know, what is it? Did he work a few miracles here and there as a baby? Did he, maybe God, by the way, has God shown you anything that Jesus did as a little boy?
He has.
Tell us.
He has shown me some of his time when he was in Egypt. I did see some of the days he spent in Egypt when he was real little, and then even when he was a little bit older. I don't know the years they actually stayed there. They were there for years. They weren't there for just a couple months, and then they came back. I'm not saying till he was a teenager or anything. Obviously, he had his Joseph had his carpentry shop, and he had to raise Joseph that up. That was done not in Egypt. But his education, a lot of Christ's education was in Egypt by some of the best scholars in Egypt.
Wow.
That we would say, the reading, writing, arithmetic, that kind of stuff. That was. They didn't teach him about the Torah, but that was totally done. Joseph taught him. Then he actually went to Torah school when they left Egypt. And I do know this for sure, that when he was in his schooling, his education, he preferred reading over writing any day of the week. He loved to read.
Really?
And even as a child, he like any kids in his day, especially the boys who were in Torah school, girls didn't go there. But they all had to learn to read. They had to learn to read and understand those scriptures that were in I don't know if they called them scriptures, but in the Torah was like the 5 books of the Bible. Not the New Testament, obviously, but they had to learn it by heart, and that was part of their thing. So he loved the reading part, but they had to write it too. He wasn't that wild about writing, and he still isn't. And I love this joke that the Holy Spirit says about Christ. He said he liked reading over writing. That's why there's only 10 commandments instead of 20. And the Holy Spirit gave me that joke. But it is true. Yeah. Jesus loved sweets. That also is true. He loved honey. They kept honey all the time around. He really loved the sweets. And he did love to talk to people, even when he was young. And everybody knows the story about the caravan where he was lost. They lost him for several days. And they found him back in the temple. Guess what? Talking to the priest and even probably the high priest, And I'm sure they were undone, because at that point, when that was going on, he knew at that point he was a son of God. And that was kind of early on for him, that he already knew who he was. So he was quoting some of that from Revelation to them. They could not understand. They didn't turn him in. Hello, why are these adults keeping this younger child? He could have been like 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, something like that, when that probably happened in his life. I'm sure the parents didn't let a 5-year-old run wild through the caravan. Not that he was wild, but Jesus was always captivating. He had friends growing up. They loved to be around him. He was fun. He was funny. And he was a character. That's the best way to say it. So here he is in the temple, and the caravan has left. And I'm quite sure these people he was captivating, these leaders in the hierarchy of the temple, knew the caravan left. But they didn't want him to go, because of what he said made them burn inside. And that's exactly what happens when he shares revelation even directly with me. It makes me burn for more. Wow. And I know that's what they were experiencing. And then they found him and said, "Why did you do this? Blah, 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 blah." He was called out on the carpet by his parents, and he said, "I must be about my Father's business."
Yeah, and I think, speaking of things that I would be really curious at the end, if he was there for 3 days, wasn't it, before they found him? That wasn't it 3 days that they looked for him? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, it was several days. It wasn't just.
So I'm trying to figure. So he's talking in the temple. He's got to eat. He's got to sleep. I'm sitting here thinking, what did Jesus? What?
Maybe not.
How so?
He may not have eaten or slept.
Oh.
From the moment he knew that he was a son of God, things started changing inside of him. His desires, his focus was everything his Father wanted. And I do know that probably maybe even before he was a teenager, he'd go away to the hills to be with his Father. His Father's presence would come. He would talk with him. And that was like the whole rest of his life, he was able to do that until, of course, he went to the cross. And then, those 3 days he couldn't hear him. And so from that time on, his focus changed. And it even says in the Bible that when the crowds began to come to hear him speak, it says in the Bible, the disciples said, they barely had time to eat or sleep. That tells you right then, all their lives were changing when they began to follow him and be a part of his group, the disciples. They hardly had time to eat or sleep because people were pressing to have what he could tell them or even do for them. I also do know this. Yes, he did work miracles in his own home, or Mary would not have known he could change water into wine.
Oh, well, that's true, isn't it? Yeah. She wasn't just discerning.
No.
She'd seen it. It only makes sense, doesn't it?
I think from the time he came back in that caravan, probably very soon after that, he started doing. And this is the thing. They never called it a miracle. A miracle is something that's done. It's usually done out where there's witnesses. Okay. In your own home is it's not just a miracle. It's like your life. It's who you are. It's normal to you.